Chrissy was trying to explain how a camera works using just spoons and a potato. David, meanwhile, seemed more interested in Jack. The way you handle that knife, Jack, it's so primal. The way you slice the carrots is like a dance with destiny. Jack blinked. Primal? I'm just trying to make a salad, David. The evening ended when David admitted he wasn't interested in any of them. He was actually moving to Paris the next morning to pursue a career in underground sewer photography. Well, Jean sighed as the door closed. At least we still have the lilies. And the potato, Chrissy added. Chapter 32. The Rent Hike Scare. The month ended with a notice pinned to the lobby bulletin board. Due to rising costs of maintenance, all rents will increase by 10% effective next month. 10%? Jack shrieked. That's $30. That's 20 boxes of cereal, or one really nice pair of kitchen clogs. The roommates went into panic mode. They decided the only way to avoid the hike was to prove to Stanley that the building didn't need maintenance because they could do it themselves. The DIY disaster. Jana took over the painting of the lobby. Chrissy was in charge of tenant morale, which involved handing out homemade cookies that were as hard as bricks. Jack took on the plumbing. I've watched Roper do it 1,000 times, Jack said, brandishing a wrench. It's just a matter of turning the thingy until the drippy stops. He turned the thingy in the basement, but instead of stopping the drip, he caused a pipe to burst. A geyser of cold water erupted, soaking Jack and flooding the laundry room. The confrontation. Stanley Roper arrived just as the water reached the lobby. He stood there, watching Jack try to plug the leak with a kitchen towel. Tripper, I leave for 1 hour to go to the hardware store, and you turn my building into a swimming pool. We were trying to help, Mr. Roper. Jana cried, her dress covered in gray paint. We wanted to save you the maintenance costs so you wouldn't have to raise the rent. Stanley looked at the mess, then at the paint on Jeanette's face, and finally at Jack's dripping hair. He sighed a sound of genuine, weary defeat. All right, I'll cancel the rent hike. But only because if you keep helping, I won't have a building left to collect rent from. Now get out of my basement before you start a hurricane. The roommates retreated upstairs, wet and tired, but victorious. They sat in the living room, sharing the last of the Jimmy cake. You know, Jack said, shivering, I think I'm done with plumbing and painting and cookies, Chrissy added, nursing a chipped tooth. Happy Sunday, everyone, Jana whispered. Happy Sunday. Chapter 33, The High-Stakes House Sitter. Larry Dallas arrived at apartment 201 with an expression that suggested he had either just won the lottery or was about to ask for a very large, very illegal favor. He leaned against the doorframe, adjusting his shades even though they were indoors. Jack, my man, how would you like to live like a king for a weekend? Larry asked, ignoring Jeanette's skeptical look. The last time you asked me that, Larry, I ended up sleeping in a shack in Malibu with a bucket for a pillow. Jack reminded him. This is different. A client of mine, the Colonel, huge car collector. Very eccentric going to his daughter's wedding in Palm Springs. He needs a house sitter for his estate in the hills. A man of integrity. A man of style. And you chose Jack. Jean equipped. He chose me, Larry corrected. But I have a conflict of interest. A blonde conflict named Tiffany. I need you to take my place. Jack, the Colonel has a walk-in refrigerator stocked with prime rib. And the pool has a waterfall. Jack's eyes lit up at the mention of prime rib. Prime rib. Real, unmarinated prime rib. The misunderstanding begins. Jack packed his small suitcase, but as he was leaving, Stanley Roper caught him in the hallway. Stanley saw the bag and the look of sheer excitement on Jack's face. Tripper, where are you going? Running away from your debts. I knew it. You finally realized that 3 people in one apartment is a structural impossibility. I'm just house sitting for a weekend, Mr. Roper. In the hills. Jack beamed. Stanley narrowed his eyes. In the hills. Likely story. You're probably moving into a commune. I'm checking your room for missing light bulbs the moment you leave. The estate of chaos. The Colonel's estate was a 1970s architectural fever dream. It featured sunken living rooms, orange shag carpeting that was 3 inches deep, and a security system that communicated via rhythmic beeps and flashing lights. It's beautiful, Chrissy whispered as Jack gave them the tour. It looks like the inside of a giant orange. Jack decided to throw a small culinary appreciation dinner for his roommates. He had the prime rib in the oven and a bottle of expensive-looking champagne on the counter. But as the sun set, the security system decided that Jack's presence was unauthorized. A high-pitched siren began to wail. Steel shutters slammed down over every window and door, sealing the roommates inside the orange-carpeted fortress. Jack, what did you do? Jana screamed over the siren. I didn't do anything. I just tried to open the champagne. The Roper rescue. Downstairs at San Vicente, Stanley was convinced Jack had moved out. He entered apartment 201 with a master key and found nothing out of the ordinary. But then he saw a note Larry had left on the counter. Estate address, 400 to Hilltop Doctor. Don't touch the Colonel's button. Hilltop Drive. That's where the millionaires live. Stanley muttered, he is moving up in the world. And he didn't even give me a month's notice. Stanley drove his beat-up sedan to the estate, determined to demand his departure fee. He arrived just as the police were surrounding the house, lights flashing. Tripper, I know you're in there. Stanley yelled through a megaphone he had borrowed from the fire station. You can't hide in a mansion from the law, or from your landlord. Inside, the siren finally stopped, replaced by a calm, synthesized voice. Intruder identified as Tripper. Jack, welcome to the Colonel's estate. The shutters rose. Jack, Jana, and Chrissy emerged, looking shaken. They found Stanley standing on the lawn, arguing with a police officer. "He's my tenant," Stanley shouted. "He owes me for a broken bed